Okay, so this is everything I did in November of 2016 on my blog. The first thing I did was the test shots at a train station. As you can see, they're not the best, but it was just a bit of a play around with the camera and see what we could do, really. I ended up using this one on my contents page, but not much else. As you can see, I used the Canon, I think it's 1000D, I'm not sure though, it could be, and a tripod. I also wrote a bit about it and how it showed my theme. I also did the front cover layout drafts instead of a drawn draft because I cannot draw at all. So I decided to make it on, I think I made it on Photoshop actually. So I just sort of put out where everything would be, and these are the ones for the front cover. This one was just, rather than the picture in the background, I just used a picture to show sort of how it would be. But this was like the change I'd made to the masthead and all of that stuff. Yeah. This one is the one that I ended up going with, although you can't have writing on the faces, so I ended up making this a little bit smaller and having a little side box for that. I also wrote a bit about it. I then did the second lot of test shots where I went out to the park and just took some photos so that I could, as a bit of practice. I also wanted to test the quality of my phone's camera to see whether it lived up to the EOS camera, and it did, especially with this grass one. As you can see, all of the water droplets. But I decided that I'd use the Canon for the final project just to make sure that it really did look professional. I then have the third lot of test shots where I took them and the various things that I used. These are the ones that my friend Bradley took, and he showed me how to use the camera properly and all of that stuff. This was just on a day out. It wasn't particularly meant to be me getting to know how to use the camera, but that's how it ended up being. So he sort of taught me how to use it, showed me the angles of how I can sort of use the contrast to my advantage and that. And then I went and took some of my own down here, and I think they came out pretty well. So I felt like I was up to scratch with that. I also put my layouts on Facebook and had the audience feedback on that. And the first one, this one, won. So I wanted to try and stick to that, which I feel like I have done actually. Then we have my week 10 progress post with everything that I've done in week 10. And the photo shoot 2, which is actually some of these pictures I think I did end up using, especially on the drafts, definitely. Now this one I didn't evaluate the pictures, but I did say which ones were good and which ones were bad, and a little bit of why. I also did a contents page analysis with the noticeable points about the genres, what would be in a genre in the independent genres magazine. Then I have a technology post with all of the technology that I have used, apart from the one that I am filming on now, which is OBS Screen Recorder. I shall have to add that one onto there. But I've got Word, which I used for like all of the risk assessments, the location recce's, all of that stuff. InDesign, which I use for columns and the double page spread specifically. Paint.net I use at home, or I used to use at home before I got Photoshop. It's a bit of a knockoff version, it's free, but it doesn't really have as many of the features that Photoshop does. PowerPoint, I'm planning to use that on the evaluation section, and I've used it on a couple of analysis, I think. Prezi, I used that on the target audience Prezi. Weebly, obviously, I use that for everything, really. And SlideShare, I used that for, I think it was an analysis, and maybe something to do with target audience there. And then finally, the progress for week 11, where I did my photo shoot to contents page analysis and the technology post. And that is November.